So MicroStrategy, the business intelligence software company with a proclivity to buy and hoard Bitcoins, had their earnings call yesterday. And there were two pieces of big news that were announced. One is a super boring accounting thing, and the other is a less boring accounting thing. The boring accounting thing is that MicroStrategy took a non-cash digital asset impairment charge of $170 million in the first quarter since the price of Bitcoin had declined. Basically, MicroStrategy was forced to incur an expense because the price of Bitcoin they held went down. Fine, that's an accounting rule, but the rule is because of reasons. And because of those reasons, MicroStrategy is unable to incur revenue if the price of Bitcoin were to increase, right? And we can have a conversation here about how financial statements can lie to us without context. But MicroStrategy missing their earnings by 800% could not have even been an 800% beat if Bitcoin's price increased, because accounting rules only allow MicroStrategy to recognize gains on Bitcoin if they sell, which we know MicroStrategy's CEO, Michael Saylor, very well, and he will never do that. The other accounting thing was the announcement of a new CFO who has experience at Goldman Sachs-owned GreenSky, which is kind of legit if you ask me, so I think that's a good thing. But before I throw it to the group for thoughts, I want to highlight one thing that I hope we can chat about just a little bit. So MicroStrategy holds 129,000 Bitcoins. That's worth about $5 billion. If you look at the stock price of MicroStrategy and calculate what the market capitalization is, what the public markets think MicroStrategy is worth, they only think it's worth $3.7 billion. So apparently MicroStrategy's core business is worth negative dollars, and that's the only explanation here. Anyway, anyone have thoughts on any of that? Will, go for it.
Something different from the headlines here that I saw, and I only saw this like really quickly on Twitter, so correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is that they're now looking at lending out this Bitcoin that they have on their balance sheet in some sort of way so they can get interest on top of it. Obviously, MicroStrategy has like their business lineup. They have this Bitcoin stash, which has performed really, really well for them, like the cost basis compared to like where their Bitcoin is sitting at right now. Nice little gain there for Michael Saylor. Like a nice pat on his back for doing that. I think like I've seen a few tweets and a few thoughts from people saying like this could be one of the best financial trades of all time if Bitcoin really does do what people are thinking it's going to do. But right now, the question is like, can they keep going along? And they're looking at lending and getting interest on top of their coins in order to make the situation a little bit more merry, because they have taken like a very aggressive step in accessing public markets in order to get more Bitcoin. And I think even in this call, George, correct me if I'm wrong, but there was even talks for the first time of what a margin call would look like for MicroStrategy if Bitcoin's price dropped enough. So to me, I'm looking at MicroStrategy and thinking like, you guys made a really ballsy play. If Bitcoin keeps going up, you guys are heroes. But right now you have to keep the ship sailing. Otherwise, it doesn't matter where you get. You guys are going to be shipwrecked. Zach, I'll throw it up to you and get your take.
Sailing with a Y. See what you did there, Will.
Yeah, that's pretty good. I know.
That was good. Yeah. So the margin call level that was reported was around $21,000, the price of Bitcoin. So they would have to like kind of re-up their position at that point. And then I think, I'm going to toss this one to George because he's smarter about this stuff than I am. But what would happen? Like, what would that mean? I don't know if Bitcoin is going to tank that low. It's been a while since it's been that low. It's not out of the realm of possibility. But if that were to come to pass and we see Bitcoin at 21K, what does that mean for MicroStrategy at that point?
Yeah, I'm supposed to be a permabull, but there is a world where Bitcoin does go to $21,000. And what actually...
Boo.
Sorry. But there is a world where that happens. But given the way MicroStrategy has structured their debt instruments in order to buy Bitcoin, they've only collateralized a portion of their Bitcoin. And what they do with that is it's what's called loan to value, right? So you have a certain loan and it's worth a certain amount of money and you have to put up a certain amount of Bitcoin. And if you get to a point where the amount of Bitcoin is, or the value of Bitcoin is too low and the loan is in excess, I think it was 50% of the loan is worth from 20%, you can cure that loan, that margin call, by just putting more Bitcoin up or putting cash up. So realistically, that's what they would do if the price fell. They could just take some of their MicroStrategy Bitcoin, which is where they hold their Bitcoin, and put it to work and recollateralize and redo the loan. So it'd be more of a technical default rather than an actual default where they have to just sell the entire company. I saw two hands come up, so I don't know if I did a bad job explaining it or if you guys want to add anything.
I'll give it to Jen.
I just have a quick question for you, George. How do you think shareholders are going to react to this? I took a look at the MicroStrategy share price this morning, and it seems to be on a bit of a steady decline. And we talk about that debt. This morning I was reading it's in the billions of dollars of debt to buy all of this Bitcoin. Bitcoin is extremely volatile. What do you think we're going to see shareholders do in the midterm?
Yeah, I just think investors are treating MicroStrategy like a Bitcoin ETF when that feels just a little bit wrong. I'm not saying that MicroStrategy is a great tech company, but they do throw off cash flow on their tech business, and it's not really growing quickly, but it's still a business. But for, lack of other options, like Zach talked about, people are treating MicroStrategy like a Bitcoin ETF. So as the price of Bitcoin goes down, so does MicroStrategy's stock. And that's going to be the case, I think, for the medium term.